meeting at the crossroads where the two forbidden subjects of religion and politics intersect. This is the Sophie Scholl Roundtable. We were to have about 3 of us here today, but one could not make it. His name, Kurt Olson. He's been here before, and he's had some very interesting posts on Facebook. Here's one. The government's free money to have people sit home, collect unemployment, and binge watch Netflix is Olympic-sized stupidity. And I would also say legal theft.
Yeah.
Notice I said legal. It's still thievery, but the government has made it legal. And the effect of this in the long term not only steals from our pockets, steals from the pockets of people who are working, subsidizing their unemployment, but it's also devaluing our currency, devaluing the dollar. And have you noticed an increase in prices lately? It's not so much the increase in prices as it is the devaluation of the dollar.
Yeah.
Garrett, have you been noticing things about employment, prices, as you've just observed in our area, what's happening here?
Yeah. You drive around and you see help wanted signs all over the place. And, the argument on the progressive side is that, oh, well, they need to start paying a living wage, or they need to increase their wages if they want the jobs filled. But yeah, the other side of that is that there's a pretty steady stream of free money coming in through these stimulus checks and via unemployment benefits that never seem to end and seem infinitely extendable based on, whether it's state policy or federal policy. I'm not exactly sure, but we are struggling in my industry. I mean, I'm not comfortable naming who I work for, but it's a manufacturing private company, and we have probably half a dozen entry-level positions open right now, and we're having trouble filling them.
I was just at a store before I came here, and as I was at the counter, I was asked, do you know of anybody who wants to work?
Yeah.
Because they're looking for people to work.
Yeah, every convenience store or gas station you run in has it.
Yeah, and then I heard a restaurant out in Iowa that closed. Mm-hmm. They closed because they could not find enough work.
Yep. There was a restaurant that I like to go to in Bemis. It's where our Libertarian Party meeting is, and they had to close down because they had a positive COVID case, or someone just had to miss work because they were forced to isolate because they were a close contact or whatever. They had to close their restaurant down because they were that short-staffed that they couldn't lose 1 or 2 people.
And when you go on with a policy like we've seen for months on end, this is going to have repercussions unless we change course quick.
Yeah, and you pile that on top of, what we lost because of the mandatory shutdowns, that we had for 3+ months, even now sometimes business didn't recover it. But yeah, we can't go on just handing out the money, and something will give, and if it's not an end to this printing of money and handing out of stimulus checks and unemployment benefits, it's just going to be higher prices.
Yeah,
for the things that we need to live: food, clothes, gas.
Right, and I think I saw a stat. We haven't seen this kind of inflation since 2008, and I don't think it's going to stop. In other words, I think it's going to continue on the course that we have been seeing. I could be wrong on that, but what we do see, I think it's called Grisham's Law, bad money ruining good money.
Yeah.
I mean, our system was already bad enough. Mm-hmm. That is our dollar policy, but we see it even getting worse as more money is being printed.
Yeah, and I think Grisham's Law applies to, when we switched off to the gold standard and went to fiat currency, you saw all the gold or all the you can't find a silver quarter anymore. I think silver quarters are, I want to say 1952 is the cutoff, so everything back from that is silver. try going to the bank and finding silver, or try counting your giant change jar at home. You can't find it. But now what Grisham's Law is doing is it's driving out the Federal Reserve note, and you see a boom in all these new cryptocurrencies.
Yeah.
Because people have more faith in an online ledger and a blockchain program than they do the fiat currency Federal Reserve note right now.
Yeah, and that's an interesting phenomena we're watching, because Bitcoin right now is like at 50,000.
Yeah, and that new Dogecoin is
Yeah.
skyrocketing.
Yeah, so it seems like you have better control of money with that system than what we see happening with the dollar.
I think they're all bubbles, though. I think the cryptocurrency, and I don't fully, I can't fully wrap my head around it, but it's another type of a different type of fiat currency. So instead of fiat that falls back on faith into a country's economy and a country's military and in a country's social stability, which is what quote unquote backs our dollar, you have a fiat currency that's backed by faith in a ledger system and in a blockchain program, both of which are very immaterial things.
Yeah, that's right. It's not like having your currency backed by gold.
Yeah, right.
So these are things that we are observing and watching, and I feel too, big business will make it by okay. The big box stores will do all right. Mm-hmm. It's the small business that is really taking it on the chin. I know of somebody who may be having to go out of business because he can't get supplies. Mm-hmm. There's no supplies available to satisfy his customers. So he's being pushed into a corner, and he just may have to end what he really enjoys doing because of the lack of supply coming through the chain that, in effect, resulted from a perfect storm, hurricanes, weather-related stuff, but I also can't help but think lockdown as well contributed as a major factor in this whole situation.
You know who else isn't going to suffer? The political class.
Oh, yes, right.
The politicians.
Nope.
Most of which, when they retire, they're going to be on some sort of either federal or state pension system. A lot of the county employees, that's one thing that in my industry and talking to other people in manufacturing and especially the trades, they often lose employees to go work for the county, applying those same skills, because we've gotten to such a big progressive system where the county has to provide all these services that one of the biggest employers in Chautauqua County is Chautauqua County.
Yeah.
Try going up to Mayville to go to the DMV on a weekday. You can't find a parking spot, not because everybody's trying to go to the DMV, but because our county is that big of an employer to run all of the mental health, addiction, you name it, service.
I would agree, right. And when we see politicians getting pensions, I would love to see that go.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, politicians should not be having pensions because it just encourages that class to stay right where it is without moving out.
Not constitutional whatsoever. I don't know how that got slipped through whenever it did.
Right. So just some things that we're noticing, observing about the county when people continue to get unemployment benefits, when there's plenty of work out there, we've got a problem. And to me, it just is a mockery of what Paul instructs the Christians to do here in 2 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 10. Thessalonians, I'm sorry. Thank you for that correction. If a man will not work, he shall not eat. If a man will not work, he shall not eat. That's what he said to the church. I think that should be applied as a rule in general for our society as well. Instead of all these benefits coming at the cost of people who are working to pay for these benefits of people who could work, who should work, but take advantage of the system, staying unemployed on that living wage, while the left say, well, you got to have work that is a living wage. I haven't heard them complain yet about these unemployment benefits not being enough.
And I mean, there's a balance too. There's some people who legitimately can't
Yes.
do physical
Right.
labor, but and I harp on this a lot. We can do better under charity, under systems of helping less fortunate through private charity. Christians are good at that, used to be a lot better at that, and I think the government in large part has pushed them out. But the system that we have now of taking people's money and giving it to people who claim to be in need, some of which are not, some of which are, is not charity. You can't force charity. If it's forced, it becomes not charity. That becomes theft or compulsion.
Yes, exactly. And thank you, Gerd, for making that distinction. And that's why we've got to qualify our terms and understand the terms we're using, especially in a world today that makes things look real fuzzy and makes it look like compassion comes through the government when it really is compulsion. Well, thank you for joining us here today on the Sophie Scholl Roundtable.